but the situation is very tough, because I don't think at this point of time Putin is thinking only about Ukraine. He is thinking about Baltics, Poland, and how to invade Europe. And European leaders should be aware of it and start doing something, not just relaxing.
Donald Tusk, the Prime Minister of Poland, has warned that Europe is in a pre-war era, reminiscent of the situation in 1939. His comments came the day after Russia launched around 100 missiles and drones at Ukraine's energy system, leading to blackouts in several regions. Let's speak to Yulia Klymenko, who is a member of the Ukrainian parliament from Holos, which is an opposition party. Good morning, Yulia.
Good morning. Thank you for hosting me.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us. What do you make of the comments by Donald Tusk, the Polish Prime Minister?
I think he is right. We see and saw and probably will be see a lot of missiles attacks, and some of the missiles arriving also or going through the Polish territory. It's not only arriving to Ukrainian gas station, heating power stations and electricity stations and many other critical infrastructure they're trying to destroy. Russians trying to destroy. Also, there is a tendency that these missiles, they're coming from the west side to Ukraine, so it's going through the Polish territory. And this is, it's a dangerous situation because it's a NATO territory as well. And at some point of time, it could arrive on a Polish, missiles could arrive on a Polish territory, or can be destroyed by NATO forces. And also, the parts of these drones and missiles, they're falling to the heads of civilians, which is going on in Ukraine for almost 2 years already.
Do you get a sense that Russia is stepping up its attacks in Ukraine?
I think they are, after the election of, election in Russia, Putin's election in Russia, they have started much heavier attacks by missiles. So the average number of drones and missiles arriving every day is between 50 and 100. And this is also very dangerous because Ukraine, unfortunately, has no enough air defense systems and weaponry coming from the US and Europe, because the US stuck in the Congress with a draft law on Ukraine and finance for Ukraine, as well as Europe, unfortunately, cannot produce enough munition and enough air defense system to protect, to give it to Ukraine, to sell it to Ukraine, as well as protect itself, unfortunately. So Tusk is very right, and I think we need to be more prepared, and to make our industrial lines not cold but hot. Otherwise, to produce weapon. Otherwise, the Europe will be in the same situation as Ukraine now.
How much do you worry about the reduction in weapons that are coming to Ukraine? How much do you worry about that for the war going forward?
This is the biggest obstacle, the biggest problem for Ukraine now, because it means that Russia can hit civilians, can kill civilians, can destroy infrastructure, and then we will have consequences, because if Russia will destroy more and more infrastructure and residential buildings and killing civilians, so the numbers of the reconstruction as well as the numbers of killed people increasing every day. So it's cheaper to produce weapon in Europe and US and in Ukraine and to defeat Russia than to invest then into reconstruction of Ukraine, Poland, or Europe. And I'm not even speaking about the lives of civilians. Unfortunately, Russia is a terrorist state, which is targeting mostly civilians, not military bases, not military infrastructure, but particular civilians, trying to do blackout in Ukraine, as well as trying to destroy all gas infrastructure in Ukraine. So it's completely genocide war from the Russia side against Ukraine.
There was a piece written in the Times newspaper this week which said we should be ready for the fall of Kyiv to Russia. Do you think that's possible?
I don't think it's possible because we heard it 2 years ago when our Western allies said that the Kyiv will be destroyed or taken by Russians for 48 hours. It didn't happen, so I stayed in the occupation and helping our military and civilians for the whole time of occupation of Kyiv and Kyiv Oblast. No, I don't believe in it, and I don't think Russia is capable to take not even Kyiv, but some even smaller cities in Ukraine. We saw that they are moving very slowly, and they took 2 villages or 10 villages for 2 years. So, and we put them back and they take back 25% of our territory. So, I mean, I don't believe in it, but the situation is very tough because I don't think at this point of time Putin is thinking only about Ukraine. He is thinking about Baltics, Poland, and how to invade Europe. And European leaders should be aware of it and start doing something, not just relaxing.
Yulia, thank you so much for speaking to us, and take care of yourself.
Thank you.
That is Yulia Klymenko. She's a member of the Ukrainian parliament from the Holos opposition party. I mean, just some really stark things there when you think about this. She's saying the biggest obstacle for Ukraine right now is not having enough weapons. And she makes a really simple point. It is cheaper to give weapons to the country than it is to go in after the war and reconstruct, not to mention the loss of civilian life, but saying on average between 50 to 100 missiles and drones fired on Ukraine every single day.
Yeah, it's that there's a classic sort of argument about war, which is it tends to be better value to take action, to invest and bring it to a conclusion sooner rather than playing a kind of long game and sort of waiting for it to expire itself.
But also if Russia wins because there's not enough weapons, all that money has been wasted. That human life has been wasted. You know, if you're going to go for it, there is an argument, isn't there, that you've got to stick with it. But as she rightly points out, the problems with Congress at the moment, passing legislation, and who knows what will happen if there is a Trump presidency, of course, at the end of this year.